The halls of Aloria were quiet after the ceremony. The humans had returned to their guest quarters and the aliens had dispersed, each lost in thought. But the memory of Daniel's voice still lingered in the air like smoke after a fire. Daniel sat on the edge of his bed inside the chamber given to him. His hands trembled. He replayed the moment in his mind again and again. He had not planned to sing. He had only wanted to understand, to honor the beauty of their song. But when the princess's voice rose, something had stirred inside him, and the music had slipped from his lips like a river finding its path. Now he feared he had made a mistake. What if they thought he mocked them? What if his clumsy attempt had insulted their traditions? He buried his face in his hands. "I probably ruined everything," he whispered. His crewmate Captain Harris walked in. The captain was a stern but fair man older than Daniel, with years of experience in first contact diplomacy. He crossed his arms. "You were reckless," Harris said. "Do you realize what you did?" "Their songs are sacred." Daniel lifted his head. "I know, I couldn't stop myself." It felt important, like I had to try. The captain studied him for a long moment, then sighed. "Well, whatever you did, it moved their princess. That much is clear. She told you to continue. That's no small thing. Still, tread carefully. One mistake in a place like this and we all pay the price." Daniel nodded, but his mind remained restless. He couldn't forget the way the princess had looked at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. That image stayed with him like a flame refusing to die. That night, when the city outside was lit with glowing lanterns that floated in the air like stars, Daniel wandered to the balcony of his chamber. The air was cool, carrying the faint hum of the city itself. The buildings glowed faintly, alive with energy. He leaned against the railing, humming softly to himself, trying to recall the melody. "You sing again." The voice startled him. He turned. Standing in the shadows of the balcony was the princess herself. Daniel froze. "Your Highness," he said quickly, bowing awkwardly. She tilted her head, a small smile tugging at her lips. "You do not need to bow. You are not of my people." Daniel straightened, unsure how to respond. "I didn't mean to cause offense earlier. I only wanted to understand. I'm sorry if I broke your traditions." The princess stepped closer, her silver robes whispering against the stone floor. Her luminous eyes studied him carefully. "You did not break them. You touched them." "You touched me," Daniel blinked. "I did?" She nodded slowly. "Our songs are not only music. They are memory. They carry the voices of those who lived before us. When you sang, your voice was different. Clumsy, yes, but honest. It carried sorrow. It carried longing. That is why I told you to continue." Daniel's chest tightened. "I wasn't mocking. I swear it. I only wanted to show respect." "I know," she said softly. For a moment her expression softened, as if she were no longer a princess but simply a woman who carried heavy burdens. "Why do you try to sing a language not your own?" Daniel hesitated. "Because music has always been a bridge. On Earth, songs connect people across nations, across time. When I heard yours, I felt it calling to me. I thought, maybe if I learned, I could understand you better." The princess lowered her gaze, her voice almost a whisper. "No outsider has ever wanted to understand." Silence hung between them for a moment, broken only by the faint hum of the city below. Then, to Daniel's surprise, she began to hum, a soft melody, gentle and low. She glanced at him expectantly. "Sing with me," she said. Daniel's heart raced. He tried to follow her notes, stumbling, missing the tones but pressing on. She corrected him, repeating sounds until his mouth formed them more clearly. Slowly, painfully, the song grew. For the first time, the two voices, human and alien, blended together. Imperfect, fragile, but real. Over the next days, the princess visited him often, always in secret, away from the watchful eyes of the court. She taught him short phrases explaining their meanings. "This one," she said one evening, shaping the word with her lips, "means memory. It is not just remembering. It is living with the past." Daniel repeated it, stumbling over the alien syllables. She corrected him gently, smiling when he got closer to the true sound. Another time, she sang a line from a longer song. "This one is about light that never dies. We sing it when we mourn." Daniel's voice cracked as he tried it, but she touched his hand lightly. "Do not fear mistakes. Truth is more important than perfection." In turn, Daniel shared human songs with her, simple ones at first. A lullaby his mother once sang to him. A folk song from his homeland. The princess listened with wide eyes, her expression softening. "Your songs are different," she said. "They carry hope." "Maybe," Daniel replied. "But they carry pain too. Music always carries what words alone cannot." Their connection deepened. Slowly, she began to tell him of her people's history, how they once spanned the stars but now had retreated to their homeworld, carrying grief from wars long past, how the songs kept them united when all else failed. Daniel listened, his heart heavy. He realized that her tears in the hall had not been for him alone. They had been for generations of sorrow carried through her people's voices. But not everyone looked kindly on their growing bond. Whispers spread among the court. Some elders said the human disrespected sacred tradition. Others feared his singing meant he was trying to steal their heritage. The guards gave him sharper glances. Even his fellow crew noticed. One evening, Captain Harris confronted him again. "You're playing a dangerous game, Daniel," the captain warned. "I see the way she looks at you. And I see the way her people look at her because of you. If they believe you're corrupting their princess, this entire mission could fail." Daniel clenched his fists. "I'm not corrupting anything. I just want to learn. I want to show them we're not enemies." Harris shook his head. "Be careful. Respect is one thing. Attachment is another." Daniel fell silent. Deep down, he knew the captain was right. But he couldn't turn away now. Not when the princess's eyes glowed with hope each time she sang with him. One night, as they practiced in the gardens beneath the glowing crystal trees, the princess suddenly stopped. "Daniel," she said softly, "do you know why our songs matter so much?" He shook his head. She placed a hand over her heart. "Because they are the only part of our ancestors that never died. Their words, their voices live inside us through song. That is why it is sacred." Daniel's voice was quiet. "And yet, you let me sing." She looked at him, her eyes shimmering again. "Because when you sing, I hear not only my ancestors. I hear you, and in your voice I hear something I have never heard before." "What's that?" Daniel asked. She smiled faintly, tears glistening. "Hope for two worlds." That night, as the stars of Aloria shone above, Daniel realized the bond between them was no longer just curiosity. It was something deeper, something fragile but powerful. The princess had opened her heart through music, and he, a simple human with a clumsy voice, had stepped into her song, but he did not yet know that others were watching. And not all of them would allow this bond to grow without challenge. The days in Aloria stretched like soft songs, each evening filled with quiet lessons between Daniel and the princess. The crystal gardens glowed at night as they practiced, their voices weaving imperfect melodies that mixed human tones with alien ones. For Daniel, those nights were a gift. For the princess, they were freedom. But whispers grew louder. Guards lingered near the gardens. Elders watched more closely during ceremonies. And Daniel could feel the weight of unseen eyes. One morning, when the sky shimmered with pale gold, Daniel was summoned to the great council chamber. Captain Harris walked with him, his face tight with worry. "You're in trouble," Harris muttered. "I warned you this would happen." Daniel tried to stay calm, but his stomach churned. He knew what this was about. He had crossed a line without realizing it. The chamber was vast, its ceiling carved with stars. A circle of elders stood waiting, their long robes trailing on the marble floor. At the center sat the High Elder, her face lined with age but her eyes sharp with judgment. Beside her stood the princess, her expression unreadable. Daniel bowed clumsily. "You asked for me," the High Elder's voice rang clear. "Human, you have done what no outsider has ever dared. You have sung our sacred songs." Daniel swallowed hard. "I meant no disrespect." "Meaning is not enough," another elder said sharply. "Sacred things must be protected. Our songs are the soul of our people. To touch them without understanding is to steal from us." Daniel's heart sank. "I don't want to steal. I only want to honor them. To learn." The elders murmured among themselves. Some frowned in anger, others in doubt. The High Elder raised her hand, silencing the hall. "Princess, you were present when this human sang. Tell us why you did not stop him." The princess stepped forward. Her voice was soft but firm. "Because I heard no mockery in his voice. His words were broken, yes, but his heart was true. He carried our sorrow with him. He gave voice to pain that even we struggle to bear." Her words stirred the hall, but not everyone agreed. A tall elder pointed a finger at Daniel. "And what if this is a trick? What if the humans seek to take our heritage and make it their own?" Daniel raised his head, his voice trembling. "No, I don't want to take anything. I only want to share. To build a bridge between us. The High Elder considered him for a long time. Then she spoke. If your words are true, then you must prove them. You will sing again, here before us, not the simple melody you have practiced, but the morning song. Gasps filled the hall. Even the princess's eyes widened. Daniel turned to her. The morning song? He whispered. She nodded slowly, her voice hushed. It is the most sacred of all. We sing it only when we lay our dead to rest. It carries the voices of countless generations, even I have sung it only once. The weight of the request fell heavy on Daniel's shoulders. His mouth went dry. How could he sing something so sacred, so deep, when he barely understood their words? Yet the High Elder's eyes held no mercy. If you are sincere, your voice will show it. If not, your lie will be revealed. Sing. Daniel stood in the center of the hall, trembling. The circle of elders surrounded him. The guards stood ready. His fellow humans watched from the side, tense and silent. And the princess? Her eyes never left him, filled with both fear and hope. He closed his eyes. He tried to recall the lessons she had taught him. The sounds, the meanings, the way her voice carried grief like a river. Slowly he began. The first notes were rough, broken. His tongue stumbled over strange syllables, his human throat unable to form them perfectly. A few elders frowned. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, but Daniel pushed on. He let go of fear. He thought of the meaning behind the words, not just the sound. He thought of his own past, his father, gone too soon. His mother's quiet lullabies, the friends he had lost along the way. He poured his own grief into the song, letting it guide him where the words failed. His voice grew stronger. Imperfect, yes, but raw and filled with emotion. The notes wavered, cracked, but carried truth. The princess's lips parted, her eyes shimmering. She whispered under her breath, almost inaudible. Yes, continue. Daniel's voice rose higher, trembling but unbroken. He sang of loss, of light fading into darkness, of hope that flickered even when the stars went out. His body shook, but his heart did not. When the last note fell silent, the hall was still. No one moved. No one spoke. Then slowly, one elder lowered her head. Another followed. Soon the circle of elders stood in silence, their eyes wet with tears. The High Elder's voice was softer now. Your voice is untrained. Your words are broken, but your grief is real. You carry sorrow as we do. That cannot be faked. The princess stepped forward, her eyes bright with tears. She looked at Daniel not as an outsider, but as someone who had shared her people's soul. But not everyone was convinced. From the back of the hall, a warrior elder stepped forward, his voice sharp. This is dangerous. If one human sings today, tomorrow others will follow. Soon our sacred songs will no longer belong to us. They will be corrupted, diluted, lost. Murmurs of agreement spread among some of the council. The princess raised her chin. No, the songs will not be lost. They will be carried, shared, strengthened. The warrior glared at her. You defend him too strongly. Is this about tradition or about your own heart? The hall fell into uneasy silence. The question hung heavy in the air. Daniel's chest tightened. He could not let the princess take the blame for his choices. He stepped forward. If I have caused harm, then let the punishment fall on me alone. Do not blame her. The princess's eyes widened, but she said nothing. The High Elder raised her hand again. Enough, we have heard his voice. We have seen his heart. For now, he will not be punished, but he must walk carefully. One wrong step, and the trust he has built will vanish. The council slowly dispersed, leaving the hall heavy with silence. Later that evening, Daniel sat in the gardens, exhausted. The crystal trees glowed faintly, their light reflecting in the pool beside him. He touched the water with his fingers, watching the ripples spread. The princess approached quietly. She sat beside him, her robe brushing the grass. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. I thought I was finished. I thought I would fail. You did not fail, she said softly. You sang with truth. That is what matters. He looked at her, his voice low. But now they question you because of me. She shook her head. Let them question. For the first time in many years, they have heard something new, something alive. Daniel swallowed hard. Why did you tell me to continue? That first night in the hall? Why did you take that risk? The princess's eyes met his. In them was sorrow, but also something brighter. Because when you sang, I felt less alone. My people sing always of the past, but you sing of both sorrow and hope. I needed to hear that. I needed to know it was possible. Daniel's heart ached at her words. He realized then that their bond was no longer just about music. It was about something deeper, something fragile yet powerful. But he also knew that danger was growing. The council was divided. Some respected him now, but others saw only a threat. And in the shadows of Aloria, not everyone would remain patient. That night, as Daniel returned to his chamber, he felt a strange unease. He glanced back once at the glowing gardens where the princess still sat alone. Her voice drifted faintly on the air, a quiet song only she could sing. It was beautiful. It was lonely, and it was a warning. Their journey together was only just beginning. The days following Daniel's trial before the council were tense. The crystal city of Aloria gleamed like silver under the twin suns, but beneath the surface, unease stirred. The elders whispered in corridors. Guards patrolled more often. Some citizens glanced at Daniel and the humans with suspicion, their expressions a mix of awe and distrust. Daniel felt the weight of their scrutiny each time he moved through the city. Even the quiet moments with the princess carried a shadow. He and she still met in the crystal gardens, their voices weaving together in music. But the world outside those trees was restless. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon and the sky glimmered with lavender light, a group of warrior elders approached the gardens. Their faces were stern, their silver armor reflecting the dying light. They surrounded Daniel and the princess, their presence heavy with authority. "You continue to meet him," the tallest of the warriors said, his voice cold. "Despite our warnings." The princess stood tall, her robes flowing like water. "I have done nothing wrong. He has shown respect. He has not harmed us." The warrior stepped closer. "Respect? You risk your people's sacred traditions. You risk dishonor. The council will not forgive this." Daniel stepped forward, his voice firm. "I do not seek dishonor. I only want to learn. I only want to show that humans can understand your people." The warrior laughed, sharp and bitter. "Understand us? You are an outsider. You cannot comprehend what your tongue cannot shape. One human among us may seem harmless, but it sets a dangerous example. Others will come. Others will try to imitate you. The sacred songs will be lost." The princess's eyes glimmered with determination. "Then let it be known, no one will take my choice from me. I will not stop him from learning. I will not allow your fear to silence truth." For a moment, silence fell. The warriors' jaws tightened. Some bowed their heads, others glared at the princess with resentment. "You dare defy your own people?" One elder demanded. "I dare," she replied. "Because he sings with heart, and because I will not let fear decide who touches our past." Daniel could hardly believe her courage. She was standing alone against her own people for him. His chest tightened. "Your Highness, I cannot allow you to risk yourself for me." She looked at him, tears glimmering in her eyes, but her voice was steady. "You do not understand. It is not for you alone. When you sing, I hear hope. Hope for my people, hope for the future. I will not let that be silenced." The warrior elder turned, his voice low but sharp. "This is not over. The council will act. You may have prevented punishment today, but tomorrow they may not be so merciful." With that, the group left, their armor clinking softly, leaving Daniel and the princess alone among the glowing trees. Daniel exhaled slowly. I don't know if I can handle what's coming." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then sing with me. Sing and show them that fear cannot destroy truth." The next day, the council convened again. Tensions were high. Some elders demanded Daniel be sent away immediately. Others, moved by his song, argued that humans might indeed be allies, not threats. The princess stepped into the chamber, her robe flowing, her eyes shining. She spoke with a clarity and authority that silenced the murmurs. "He has not stolen from us," she said. "He has honored us. He has sung with sorrow, and in doing so he has reminded us why our songs exist, to carry memory and truth. Shall we punish someone for showing respect?" The council hesitated. Their faces were a mixture of pride and fear. The warrior faction remained rigid, their voices cold. "We cannot allow this precedent. What of the next human? Shall they all sing our songs? Our heritage must remain ours alone." Daniel stepped forward. "I do not ask for privileges. I do not ask for acceptance. I only ask for understanding. I do not seek to change your people. I only seek to honor what you have built." The chamber fell silent. The elders exchanged glances. Even the warriors were unsure because Daniel's sincerity was impossible to ignore. The High Elder finally spoke. Perhaps this is the path we must take. The human is flawed, yes, but truth flows through him, and the princess defends him. That must count for something. Despite the council's tentative decision, tension remained in the city. Daniel and the princess continued their private lessons, their music growing stronger. They practiced late into the nights, voices blending in ways that were at once human and alien, imperfect but beautiful. During these moments, the princess began to share more than songs. She spoke of her world, of the wars that had driven her people to isolation, of the ancestors whose voices lived only in memory. She explained the meaning behind each line of the sacred melodies, showing Daniel that song was more than sound. It was the soul of her people. Daniel listened, captivated. He began to understand not just the language, but the weight behind it. Every note carried grief, every pause held memory. When he sang not only with his voice, but with his heart. At night, under the crystal trees, their hands brushed. Daniel felt warmth and courage in her touch. But he remembered the world outside the gardens, the factions that opposed him, and he knew danger still lingered. One evening, a warning came. A group of warriors had gathered near the human quarters. They demanded that Daniel leave the city immediately, claiming he endangered the princess and her people. Daniel's heart pounded. He had anticipated opposition, but now it was here, direct and threatening. He stood in the courtyard facing the warriors, his hands empty but his spirit firm. The princess arrived just as tension threatened to explode. She walked between Daniel and the warriors. "He will not leave," she said firmly. "If you try to force him, you will do so over my body, and I will not move." The leader of the warriors paused. He had expected a princess to yield, not stand like a shield. Her courage was as unyielding as the crystal walls around them. Daniel whispered, "I cannot let you risk yourself for me." She smiled faintly through her tears. "You have risked nothing yet, but you have taught me to hope. That is worth more than fear." The warriors hesitated. They had been trained to follow tradition without question. Yet here was a princess defying them, her voice unwavering. Finally, after tense moments, they lowered their heads and retreated. Daniel exhaled, relief washing over him. "That was too close," he murmured. She touched his arm gently. "Sometimes courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Today we chose to act together. The next weeks were calmer but cautious. Daniel and the princess continued their lessons, their bond growing stronger. The council allowed it, though under watchful eyes. During this time, Daniel began to learn not only the language of songs, but the language of the heart. He realized that every melody, every note, carried not just tradition but emotion. When he sang, he could feel the past, the sorrow, and the hope of her people. And when she sang, she could hear his human grief and courage. Through music, they built a bridge, a fragile, beautiful bridge between two worlds. Yet even in quiet moments, Daniel knew the opposition had not vanished. Whispers still lingered in the halls. Shadows still moved where trust was uncertain, and he knew that the greatest challenge had yet to come. Because while hearts could unite in song, politics and fear had their own power, and in the world of Aloria, where memory and tradition were sacred, one misstep could undo everything. That night, Daniel and the princess stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons reflected in the crystal spires, casting silver light across the streets. "Do you think they will ever accept me?" Daniel asked quietly. The princess looked at him, her eyes full of both sadness and determination. "Perhaps not all, but some will, and the ones who do will carry the truth with them. That is enough for now." Daniel nodded, understanding that their journey was far from over, but he also knew something else. Together they could face it, and as the stars of Aloria shone above, he whispered softly, "Then we continue." The princess smiled through her tears. "Yes, we continue." The crystal city of Aloria glowed under the twin suns, brighter than ever before. From the highest towers to the quietest courtyards, voices whispered of a coming event unlike any in living memory. The council had decided that a public ceremony would be held, a gathering where the alien princess and the human who dared sing in their sacred tongue would stand together. It was not a decision made lightly. Some elders argued that this risked corruption of their culture. Others insisted it was the only way forward. But the people, restless and curious, demanded to see for themselves. Daniel felt the weight of the moment pressing on him with every passing hour. He had been through suspicion, trial, and near exile. Now he stood on the edge of something far greater, a chance to show that humanity and Aloria could meet not with weapons, but with song. Yet he was nervous. The sacred songs were not easy. They demanded perfection, but he was not perfect. He was human, flawed, sometimes clumsy. And he knew there were many waiting for him to fail. The princess, however, never let doubt shake her. Each evening she met him in the crystal gardens, guiding his voice with patience. She corrected his tone, softened his mistakes, and when he faltered, she touched his hand gently and whispered, "Continue." Those words became his anchor. The day of the ceremony arrived. The grand hall of echoes was filled with thousands of citizens. Its walls were carved from living crystal, shaped to carry sound perfectly. When a voice rose here, it could be heard in every corner, pure and clear. Torches burned with blue flames, casting a sacred glow over the chamber. Daniel stood at the edge of the hall, his heart pounding. His clothes had been woven by Elorian artisans, silver threads that shimmered faintly under the light. The princess stood beside him, radiant in her flowing robes, her crown of crystal catching the firelight. She looked calm, but Daniel saw the quiet tension in her eyes. The council sat upon their high seats, the elders in robes of deep silver. The warrior faction stood like statues, armored and stern. The air was thick with expectation. The high elder raised his hand. "Today we gather to witness what has never been witnessed. A human stands among us. He has sung our words, touched our memories. Many fear what this means, many hope. Today, we will see truth for ourselves." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to Daniel and the princess. The princess stepped forward first. Her voice rose, soft at first, then steady and strong. She began a song that every citizen knew, a song of remembrance, sung in times of sorrow. It was the melody Daniel had once attempted, the one that first moved her to tears. Her voice flowed like water over stone, filling the hall with emotion. Faces softened, eyes glistened. For a moment, everyone was united in memory. Then, with a glance at Daniel, she nodded. It was his turn. Daniel stepped forward, his hands trembling. He opened his mouth, and at first his voice cracked from fear. But then he remembered the princess's words. "Continue." So he did. He sang the same song, his voice not perfect, not flawless like hers, but full of heart. His accent still carried hints of earth, his tone sometimes raw. Yet it was real. Every note was carried by his emotion, every pause by his grief. The hall listened. Some frowned at his imperfections, others widened their eyes at his courage. And slowly, something began to shift. When Daniel reached the chorus, the princess joined him. Their voices blended, her voice crystalline and pure, his deep and human. Two different sounds, yet together they created harmony. It was not alien, it was not human. It was something new, and the hall felt it. The song carried sorrow, but also hope. It carried memory, but also promise. It was no longer just a song of the past. It was a song of the future. By the time the last note faded, the hall was silent. No one moved, no one breathed. Then slowly applause began, not the polite clapping of approval, but the thundering roar of a people moved beyond words. The high elder rose, his face unreadable. He looked at the princess, then at Daniel. "What we have seen today," he said slowly, "is not the loss of tradition. It is not the breaking of memory. It is the birth of something new. The human has not stolen our songs. He has carried them with respect. He has shown that memory can live in more than one heart." The warrior elders shifted uneasily, but they could not deny what had been heard. The people themselves were speaking, their cheers filling the chamber, their tears proof of what they had felt. The princess lifted her chin, her eyes shining. "Our songs are not weaker for being shared. They are stronger, because memory grows when more voices carry it." The hall erupted again in agreement. For the first time in generations, hope filled the air of Eloria. In the days that followed, everything changed. Where once Daniel was followed with suspicion, now children greeted him with wide smiles, asking to hear his human songs. Elders, though cautious, bowed their heads in quiet respect. Even some of them, the warriors began to soften, their rigid discipline shaken by what they had witnessed. Daniel and the princess continued their singing in public, blending their voices in both sacred songs and new ones. Slowly, humans and Aelorians began to gather together, sharing words, stories, and music. What once divided them became the bridge that united them. For Daniel, it was overwhelming. He had come to this world as an outsider, a stranger who barely understood its people. Now he was part of something greater, a bond between worlds. And for the princess, it was liberation. For so long, she had carried the burden of protecting her people's traditions. Now she realized that traditions did not have to be cages. They could be wings. One evening, weeks after the ceremony, Daniel and the princess stood once more in the crystal gardens. The trees glowed softly in the starlight, their branches humming with gentle energy. Daniel looked at her, his voice quiet. "I never thought it would end like this. I thought I would be cast out or worse." The princess smiled faintly. "So did I. But we chose courage. And courage has given us more than fear ever could." He nodded. "Do you think they will always accept me?" She paused, her eyes lifting to the stars. "Perhaps not all. Some will still resist. Change is never easy. But even if only one voice accepts you, that voice will carry hope. And hope spreads." Daniel smiled softly. "Then I'll keep singing for you, for them, for all of us." She turned to him, her eyes glistening with tears, but not tears of sorrow, tears of joy. "And I will sing with you, always." Their voices rose together once more, soft but steady, carrying into the night. The garden glowed brighter, as though the world itself listened. And in that moment, the city of Aeloria, the stars above, and even the hearts of two very different souls seemed to agree on one thing. The future would not be built by fear. It would be built by song. Daniel had always believed space was quiet. Out here, away from Earth and far from the chatter of cities, there was only silence broken by the hum of his suit's oxygen regulator and the faint clicks of his boots against the rocky ground. He often told himself he liked it that way. He was a man who enjoyed order, routine, and peace. Words came to him slowly, and he never liked speaking more than necessary. But that day, silence broke in the strangest way. The human research outpost sat on the edge of a desert plain of the planet Viridia. To Daniel, Viridia felt almost alive, a strange world of green skies, silver sands, and storms that painted the horizon in shifting colors. He was stationed there as a technician, tasked with maintaining sensor towers and monitoring energy readings from the deep desert. For weeks, nothing unusual happened. Then 3 days ago, a signal appeared on his scanner, a faint distress beacon. Repeating in a language his system struggled to translate. That signal had led him here. The crashed ship lay half buried in the sand, its hull broken but still glowing faintly with alien power. The metal wasn't like anything he had ever seen. It shimmered between colors as if the ship could not decide what it wanted to look like. Parts of it pulsed like veins carrying light instead of blood. Daniel approached slowly, his heart racing. His team was back at the outpost, unaware he had slipped away alone. He told himself it was just a field inspection, but deep down he knew he wanted to see this first, before rules and protocols stripped the moment of its wonder. A sharp hiss caught his attention. From the broken side of the ship, a panel shifted, releasing a gust of air that smelled faintly sweet, like crushed flowers in spring. Daniel froze. He gripped his scanner tighter. Was something alive inside? Then he saw her. She stepped carefully from the shadow of the wreck, tall and slender, her movements both graceful and cautious. Her skin shimmered faintly under the pale green light of Viridia's sun, as though tiny crystals rested beneath its surface. Her hair, long and flowing, seemed to catch the wind even where there was none. And her eyes, he noticed them last, were brighter than any jewel he had seen. glowing with a light that made him feel small and exposed. Daniel's breath caught. He tried to speak, but no words came. The alien woman's gaze fell on him. For a moment the world stilled. The desert winds hushed. The hum of his oxygen regulator seemed distant. All that existed was her, standing against the wreckage, a mixture of strength and vulnerability. He finally managed a sound, though it came out clumsy. Hello." The woman tilted her head. She did not reply, at least not in words he understood. Instead, she touched her chest gently and said something soft. A melody of sounds his translator could not process fast enough. Then, pointing at herself, she repeated a single word. "Lyra." Daniel blinked. A name. She was giving him her name. His throat tightened. He wanted to say something clever, something that would prove humans were not just awkward creatures fumbling in alien deserts. But instead he stuttered. "To Daniel. My name is Daniel." Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. It was then that he realized he was staring too long, his thoughts running wild. He wanted to look away to hide the heat rising in his face, but he couldn't. She was not only beautiful in the way humans described beauty, her presence carried weight, as if her very being bent the air around her. Daniel, the man who never lost words when fixing machines or calculating energy outputs, suddenly could not string a proper sentence together. She took a slow step forward, studying him with cautious curiosity. Her eyes flicked to his suit, his scanner, and the insignia on his shoulder. She spoke again, the sound soft yet filled with meaning. The translator crackled, struggling, until finally it gave him fragments. "Human. Helper. Danger?" Daniel nodded quickly. "Yes, I want to help. No danger." His voice cracked with nerves. He cleared his throat, cursing himself inside. Lyra seemed to consider his words, then placed a hand over her chest again, as if thankful. The silence stretched. Daniel knew he should call the outpost. Protocol demanded it, but something in her eyes held him still. She wasn't just a survivor of a crash. She was someone important, someone carrying a story deeper than a broken ship. He lowered his scanner and took a step closer, slowly, showing his hands in peace. "Your ship?" "Broken," he said, pointing at the wreck. "I can fix." Her gaze followed his gesture. A flicker of relief passed over her features. She answered with a string of words, faster now, and the translator worked harder. It spat out broken phrases. "Cannot." "Leave. Need. Power core." Daniel studied the ship again. The glowing veins along its hull pulsed weakly like a dying heartbeat. He didn't know how to repair alien technology, but he knew enough about energy systems to try. "I will try," he said softly. Her eyes returned to him, searching, as though weighing his honesty. Then, to his surprise, she reached out slowly, touching her fingers to his gloved hand. The contact was brief, feather-light, but enough to send a strange warmth rushing through him. Daniel's mind blanked. Words tangled on his tongue. He wanted to tell her everything, how strange and wonderful she was, how he felt like a child seeing stars for the first time. But all that escaped his lips was silence. She tilted her head again, waiting for him to speak. He opened his mouth, tried, failed, and shut it again. His heart pounded so loudly he feared she could hear it. For a man who had never been afraid of silence, this silence now felt different. It pressed on him, demanding words he couldn't form. Finally, after long moments, he managed a whisper. I can't speak well because you're—" He stopped himself, choking on the last word. His cheeks burned. He turned away quickly, pretending to examine the ship's broken hull. Lyra's eyes softened. Though she did not understand his language fully, something in his tone reached her. She gave the faintest smile again, one so gentle that Daniel felt both exposed and strangely safe. For the first time in his life, he realized silence was not always empty. Sometimes silence held everything words could not. As the sun of Viridia dipped low, casting long silver shadows across the desert, Daniel and Lyra stood side by side before the broken ship. Two strangers from different worlds, bound by a fragile moment of connection neither of them could fully explain. And Daniel, the man who never struggled with machines, now struggled with something far greater, the courage to speak his heart.